This is the Ohio Farm Bureau podcast. I'm Ty Higgins, and when you think about uses of soybeans, of course, you think about livestock feed, you think about biofuels, maybe tofu, but boy, that list is very, very long, but it's getting longer because of what's happening right here in Delaware, Ohio at Airable Labs. Barry McGraw joins us on the podcast. He is Chief Laboratory Officer here at Airable. Good to see you again.
Yeah, thanks for coming. I appreciate the visit.
For those who don't know, tell us what Airable Labs is and how it came to be.
Yeah, Airable Labs is kind of the brainchild of the Ohio Soybean Council, and they've been investing in soy new uses, is what they call it, which industrial and consumer products for over 20 years. So we would fund other folks or other research organizations or universities and task them with developing soy-based products. That worked. I think that was a good start, and they were very kind of entrepreneur. When soybean farmers are very entrepreneur thinking that. Just kind of diversifying the market. About 4 years ago, we decided, hey, we want to do this better, faster, more efficient. And so that's where Airable Research Lab, so it is an in-house research and development organization, business line of the Ohio Soybean Council, now funded by 7 soybean states to primarily not to do just research, to do research for research's sake, but to do research for commercial industrial companies, developing the products they want, their consumers need, and then just increasing the probability of success and commercialization.
Last time I was here, I left with a whole bunch of goodies made from soybeans, including leather conditioner and chainsaw lubricant, if I recall. And that's something that you guys put together along with DeWalt. That is a worldwide product now.
Yeah, kind of looking back, and still we're excited about it. But the DeWalt bar and chain oil, it's in roughly 1,600 Home Depot stores. It's number one on Amazon's bar and chain oil list. So that seems like a very simple product, but that's roughly 96% soybean oil, our soybean product. So it's creating a lot of demand for soybean products, and not just one product. And we plan to have many more, dozens of products for that Stanley Black & Decker, DeWalt, Craftsman brands in the coming years.
Walk us through the process. Of course, the experimentation happens here in the lab, but in order to come up with a product, you have to have a market for it. So how does that work? I know it's a chicken or egg thing, but where do you find out what you need to start working on in order to fill a hole in the marketplace?
I think that's the sweet spot of Airable. That's the uniqueness of Airable. Before, the Ohio Soybean Council would fund organizations on good ideas, ideas for products that we think someone would want, right? So there's a lot of assumptions there, and that's not always good. Sometimes it would pay off, we would hit it, but majority of the time it would fail. And there's really good research, but maybe not what consumers want, not what industry wants. So Airable, we do it differently. So we don't come up with ideas. We come up with technologies. We're the material experts. We let commercial companies, industrial companies come to us on day one, kind of phase 0 and say, hey, this is what we need. This is what our consumers need. Can you use soy to develop it for them? So we kind of take the guessing game out. We're trusting, yes, but in industry consumers, they're not going to just spend their time on things that they don't think consumers want. They're going to spend time, and they're going to spend their energy and money and resources on things they already know the market wants.
We'll talk about some of the new innovations you're working on in 2025 in a bit. What are some of the successes that you saw in 2024 right here in the lab?
Yeah, successes 2024. We saw the bar and chain oil launched fully in the Home Depot stores. We saw the first sale of the leather conditioner or leather paste for kind of high-end leather products. That was kind of kicked off at the Paul Bunyan show in Cambridge, Ohio, and now it's being sold under a Buchan brand, and then will be sold under a DeWalt brand. And other brands. So that was large. We also licensed an acrylated epoxidized soy methyl ester, which just means a resin for the roofing application.
Thank you for putting that in layman's terms.
Yeah, so it's a soy resin that can be used in roofing applications like roll-on roofing and so for a large construction company that was licensed and now being scaled up. We also saw the scale up and field trials of 2 oil and gas products. One's a scale inhibitor for downhole drilling, and a lubricant for downhole drilling. So those were scaled up at large scale at toll producers, and then it had been implemented or trialed at field trials with customers. So there's a lot in 2024. We do believe we're just going to keep accelerating commercialization. We're really excited about 2025.
Yeah. Uh, Before we get to the new products you're working on, just out of curiosity, has there been anything in this lab that just hasn't worked? Has there been an idea that came through and you ran it through a couple of tests and it just didn't happen? What are some of those? It's a lab, right? So it's an experiment.
Yeah.
Some things are going to work, some things aren't.
That, right top of my head, two things that we've tried really hard on recently and we've probably killed for the most part. We think about maybe if something comes up later, but a gun oil for like a mil spec military grade gun oil, if you can imagine, it's high temperature requirements and other things. We've struggled with what they call pour point, getting that, can it operate at low temperatures? So that's something we've really struggled with, and we're almost about ready to kill that project. We've passed everything else with respect to USD bio-based preferred, all that good stuff, but we cannot get that low pour point. So it has to operate at very low temperatures. The other one is like thermoset resins for automotive applications, for like car parts. We tried to work on like resins and for that market, but those requirements as thermoset resins have very high temperature resistance, chemical resistance, and with a soy-based polymer, we just weren't able to see good improvement. So with the added cost and not significant improvement, we killed that project. But there's a few other, and we do FEL, which is good, I think, because with the lab, we're not obligated or we're not funded by organizations. So we don't just do projects and we don't just continue them because we have the money. If we think it doesn't pass technical targets and we give it enough time, we'll kill it and move on to the next thing. So that's another advantage of Airable. We're funded by 7 soybean states. And so they're more of our partner versus funding projects. They're funding our labs. So that gives us the kind of flexibility to kill, stop, go, accelerate as we need to.
You mentioned the successes of 2024, building on those in 2025. Talk about what you're looking forward to here over the next couple of months as we kick off the new year.
Yeah, getting into that consumer products. We started with the bar and chain oil. This year we'll see a multi-use oil. It'll be in an aerosolized can and also a pump can that can be used kind of the 3-in-1 type oils. We'll also have a penetrant kind of to compete with maybe a WD-40 type product. Leather conditioner will continue to accelerate. We're looking for someone to scale that up and toll produce it for us. And then greases for grease guns, that will be, I think, a big product this year, and so on. So a lot of consumer products. More on the industrial side, we really see the lubricant and the scale inhibitor for the oil and gas industry being commercially sold, and so those are large volumes if you think of oil and gas. So we're excited about that, and we're excited about the results of the field trials in 2024, but we're really excited about seeing products so we can kind of tout the demand, right? So right now we're like, hey, this is potential demand of some of these products, but we believe this year we'll really be able to put numbers and provide those numbers to our farmer board and farmer supporters that, hey, this is the demand that this one lab is creating.
That little soybean has such big potential. We're seeing it all happen right here at Airable Labs in Delaware. Barry McGraw, the Chief Laboratory Officer here at Airable. Appreciate your time and best of luck this year in the lab.
Yeah, thanks. Appreciate it.
Hi, I'm Brian Baldridge, Director of the Ohio Department of Agriculture and 7th generation farmer. We know farmers care about conservation. Join the thousands of H2 Ohio participants who are already implementing best management practices on their farms and receiving incentives. Program enrollment soon will open to farmers in the 10-county Western Lake Erie Basin expansion area. To join H2 Ohio, soil tests must be up to date to meet program requirements. Contact your local soil and water conservation district or visit h2.ohio.gov for more information.
This is the Ohio Farm Bureau podcast. We're in San Antonio, Texas for the 106th American Farm Bureau Federation Convention. Just got done with the policy session. That's how we wrap up every single year with AFBF. And once again, Ohio took quite a bit of policy to the federal floor here in San Antonio with AFBF. Brad Bales joins me. He is Senior Director of State and National Policy with Ohio Farm Bureau. Jack Irvin on the far side. He is Vice President of Public Policy with Ohio Farm Bureau. And Brad, I mentioned that what happened in December in Columbus, some of those policies now earlier today taken up at the national level with American Farm Bureau. What were some of those policies? I know we talk a lot about farmland preservation. There's a lot of facets to that conversation. We covered a couple of those here today.
Yeah. So of the 13 policies that we brought to AFBF out here in San Antonio, we got 13 across the finish line. So that was very successful, and it ranged from everything from honeybees to what you mentioned, foreign-owned lands and foreign adversaries. So working with our other states on the foreign adversary front, we were successful in getting some solid policy in and making sure that we have that updated, knowing that we have that being a very big topic, not only for Ohio, but across the state. So
let's dig in a little bit to each one of those, starting with the energy aspect across Ohio. In fact, our very own Dale Arnold was here in San Antonio talking about energy to a lot of folks that are dealing with what Ohioans are dealing with, the expansion of that type of green energy across the state. At the same time, though, we need to think about the farmland that we have and keeping it as productive as possible. So how did the policy we pushed through today at the federal level take steps to help us in that endeavor?
Yes, so there was 4 policy areas in the 401 and 402 section, but to take a real quick step back, those were policies that were developed from the working group that we created at last year's annual meeting because of the policies that we brought forth from Ohio and the membership that worked on those. So, really what we want to do is we want to make sure that we're trying to incentivize people to utilize things such as rooftop solar, brownfields, those kind of things, as opposed to, going after our farmlands and trying to take those out of production. Really need to do what we can to preserve those. So, that was just one aspect, but with the 4 policies, again, wouldn't have been possible without the working group and without what we were pursuing last year. And so ultimately we got to a good spot, got it across the finish line, and very happy with the outcome.
We're going to talk about trade with Jack in a second, but along with trade, it's all about finding more and new uses for our commodities. In Ohio, we have corn and soybeans, and we have a need here to find more places for those products. That could really come in the airline industry in years to come. You talk about SAF, and I'll let you explain what that is, and talk about some of the things policy-wise we talked about today that came from the Buckeye State.
Right. Well, when it comes to the federal policy, this past summer we were engaging on the 40B plan. There's a lot of difficulties there from the guidance that come from Treasury. What they wanted to do was they wanted to bundle 3 practices. That doesn't provide flexibility for our farmers. They also didn't have a prioritization for domestic feedstocks. So as we think about the 45Z plan that just is going to be coming out, that Treasury just offered guidance, they did take a lot of our recommendations, but we just made sure that this is now enshrined in our policy book.
And Jack, now we talk about the federal things that were worked on today. Some very important issues we have at the federal level. Of course, we still don't have a modernized farm bill. The farm bill we're working with now is really from 2018, and some would say even from 2012, because there wasn't too many upgrades in the 2018 farm bill from that 2012 farm bill. What were some of the things we talked about? I know that trade is very important for AFBF. How are some of the things we talked about today on the policy floor going to help us in that front?
Yeah, so no doubt having conversations about our agricultural heritage, preserving our farms, preserving that next generation was huge. And certainly markets and having somewhere to move your product was a huge part of that conversation. So trade came up a lot in the sense of making sure that our farmers, our producers, are treated fairly when they're looking to sell their products overseas. They have open markets, they have opportunities that maybe we don't have today. So removing barriers, in short, and making sure it's an open, it's a transparent, and it's a fair process in how our products and our farmers are treated.
I know you guys are used to this, but to be on that delegate floor and see how this process works, because we all go to the county meetings throughout Ohio. We see what happens at Ohio Farm Bureau's annual meeting in Columbus every December, and then to see it all come to fruition here at the federal level. Jack, talk about this grassroots process and seeing it go from where it starts to where it ends here today, and how neat that is for our members and our organization.
Well, it's no secret. I think I was actually talking with you this morning, but it might have been one of my other colleagues. Like, I love this process. I'm such a policy nerd. This is so cool for me to see that all the policies that we had conversations on today, whether we're talking sustainable aviation fuel, we're talking policies around beekeeping, we're talking trade, everything from super local to macro global conversations, they all start at the county farm bureau level and work their way up through the process. So we don't ever entertain policies here without that kind of the hands worked on those policies directly at the county level. And to me, that's just incredible. It really shows our grassroots system that it's just exciting to see. I can't even talk about it. I'm so excited.
The policy work does end here, but the work to get these policies in place definitely just now getting started. And both of you will be with me in Washington, D.C. in the middle of March, taking these messages to our delegation across Ohio. We're taking our members with us. How important is it that we carry on the messages we heard today on the floor to our lawmakers, not just in Columbus, but in Washington, D.C.?
It's extremely important. I mean, especially as we're starting to talk about a 2025 Farm Bill, what we need to be doing there, what we need to be doing on our tax policy, considering the 2017 Tax Cuts and Jobs Act is set to expire at the end of the year. Engaging with these members in Congress is extremely critical to what we do as an organization and what we can do to push our policies forward.
All of it can't happen without you all across Ohio helping us get the word out about all the important things that agriculture has to talk about in order to overcome the challenges that we're seeing throughout this industry, not just in Ohio, but across the country. Jack Irvin, Vice President of Public Policy with Ohio Farm Bureau. Brad Bales is Senior Director of State and National Policy with Ohio Farm Bureau. Thank you both so much.
Thank you, Todd.
Thank you.
Back after this as the Ohio Farm Bureau podcast continues.
Hey, this is Matt, Phil, and Libby, hosts of Ag Credit Set It, your go-to podcast for insights on farm finance and maximizing your return on investment.
Tune in to new episodes of Ag Credit Set It twice a month as we talk to industry leaders, financial experts, and farmers who share their experiences and perspective.
Listen in your favorite podcast app like Apple Podcasts or Spotify, and be sure to subscribe to Ag Credit Set It so you never miss an episode. We'll talk to you soon.
Welcome back to the Ohio Farm Bureau podcast. I'm Ty Higgins. We're in San Antonio, Texas for the 106th American Farm Bureau Convention. Two of the brightest young ag professionals, not just in Ohio, but across the country, joining me now, Catherine Walcott and Sarah Talmadge. They are respectively Ohio Farm Bureau's Outstanding Young Farmer and Excellence in Agriculture Award winners. And they competed here in San Antonio, did a great job representing the Buckeye State. And Catherine, getting through Ohio is one thing, but being able to compete on the national level is a whole other. Tell me about your experience here in San Antonio.
So it was a great experience. I was mostly coming here, didn't know what was going to happen, but I was looking forward to just the networking and just hearing other stories about what the other people in the industry were doing in the different states. And so I was, just mostly excited to learn.
You have a great story to tell. Your path to agriculture is a little bit unusual. Tell us about your background and about what you're doing now in Ohio agriculture.
So from just doing 2 years of 4-H, I was inspired by a girlfriend, and then I just sold meat by word of mouth around town, sold meat off my front porch, and every year just kind of got a few more animals each year, and we built a farm store, sold at farmers markets, and we just solely, crop farm. And this past year I was able to have my husband stay home and work beside me, so I'm very proud of just how it's grown.
She has a unique nickname. If you go to our YouTube page and watch her award video, you can see what she has been called because of her work in Ohio
agriculture. Should I show you my tattoo too? I have a tattoo.
Oh man, no, I think we'll save that for a different podcast. Sarah, also a unique entryway into Ohio agriculture. Tell us about how you're involved in this industry.
Yeah, so my start in agriculture was very non-traditional. I think everybody has heard that before from podcasts I've been on, and just through me talking with all of you. But my start came from being on my family's pheasant farm. So that pheasant farm had been in our family from 1921 to about 2010. So my dad was in the military. We came back to Ohio. We did that whole process, and then we came back to the farm full time. And from there, I got involved in 4-H, FFA, and all that good stuff. And then I didn't really know that much about Farm Bureau. And I got involved in 2017 after the wildfires came through Kansas, and I got connected with the Heart Shoes and became involved in that organization, that nonprofit. And from there, my Farm Bureau involvement really just blossomed from there. And I've just been really, really involved in Farm Bureau for the past few years, and led me to being participating in this contest. And I've had a really great time.
You never know where your path's going to take you. She was in animal agriculture for a few years and now finds herself in the rural health part of agriculture, a very important topic, especially when we talk about mental health, something you're really focusing on now in your new role. You talked about that a little in your presentation here in San Antonio. What are some things you hope to see in the near and long-term future when it comes to how we talk about health and mental health and health care when it comes to rural parts of Ohio?
Yeah, so just at this convention, there were at least 3 sessions where farmers, agriculturalists were talking about their mental health struggles. And also we learned about some policy work on the American Farm Bureau level and some applications and resources that farmers and our rural communities can use. One of those apps is called the Together All app, I do believe. So I just signed up for that. And hopefully I'm going to be sharing some information on my county level and in my district. And I'm sure on the state level as well, we'll also get that shared out. So that's something that's really exciting. But just overall, so just with that, just that start of having conversations and being open, I've really seen that our ability to decrease the stigma that's really grown. So everybody's been doing a really great job of sharing their stories and just being vulnerable in a good way. So that's a really great start. But one thing that I'm looking forward to do, I shared in my presentation, but just fostering a relationship with Ohio Farm Bureau and organizations like the Ohio Rural Health Association, and just continuing those conversations is something that I'm looking forward to.
With how much we're ramping up those conversations about rural health care, you're going to see a lot and hear a lot more from Sarah in the next coming months and years for sure. Catherine, as you continue to work on the farm and continue to grow professionally, how do you see yourself staying within this Farm Bureau fold and growing within the network that we have through this great organization?
So again, I started out, I think someone was saying, you must join. And I said, for what? And today, with this, I can just say now, like, this is why. Like, you have to experience it. You should go a little further and dive into it to see what Farm Bureau has to offer, because I just have so many things. Like, I would like to focus on our even 16-year-olds and 4-H, especially. Like, if these kids, do you want to pursue something in agriculture, like have them like do more with Farm Bureau. So I want to take back to my county, trying to do like a different networking. I guess I am voluntold that I'm taking over YAP this coming year. So again, I'm always telling people, I use my phrase, mamas, let your babies grow up to be farmers. And I did not grow up as a farmer, and I'm just super blessed that it's come into my life.
Catherine Wolcott, our outstanding young farmer, and Sarah Talmadge, Excellence in Agriculture winner here in San Antonio, representing the Buckeye State, as they have done a fantastic job here over the last couple of days. Coming up next year on the Ohio Farm Bureau podcast, meet the winner of the American Farm Bureau discussion meet, Abby Campbell, after this.
As the nation's #1 insurer of farms and farm families, Nationwide has long been a reliable resource for rural America. And while the current surge of data, technology, and globalization promises incredible growth potential, each new opportunity is shadowed by rising threats like security breaches, GMO contamination, and supply chain failures. This business is about adapting. It demands a protector just as forward-minded. It demands Nationwide.
Welcome back to the Ohio Farm Bureau podcast from San Antonio, Texas. I'm Ty Higgins. This is Abby Campbell. She is the 2025 winner of the American Farm Bureau discussion meet, beating out competitors from all across the country, representing Ohio loud and proud. Congratulations.
Thank you so much.
Describe for those who don't know what the discussion meet is. It's probably, of all the competitions they have here in San Antonio, one of the most stringent and most difficult, I would say.
I think the one really popular misconception is that the discussion meet is a debate contest or a speech contest. And I think it's really important to recognize that it's even more difficult than that, because it's really facilitating a conversation in a way that's strategic, but also cooperative. And so everyone wants to help each other to score points on that scorecard, and just, in general good nature. But at the same time, everyone's also trying to get their points across and lead the conversation.
For those who have not seen a discussion meet, there are a lot of different personalities. There are a lot of different backgrounds. You think about American Farm Bureau, we have competitors from California. They have water crisis. We've had competitors from Texas that saw over 1.5 million acres of farmland get burned. There are so many different challenges throughout American agriculture. Abby, of course, brings that Ohio perspective. How does that make this contest even more challenging? Mm-hmm. Because you have a bunch of different people with a bunch of different ideas at the same table.
Mm-hmm. Well, you can prepare as much as you want when it comes to topics, how you think someone might take the question. But the one thing you can prepare for is what your competitors are going to be like, how they're going to react, what points they want to get across. And so really, I want to credit, that component of the contest all the way back to high school. Extemporaneous public speaking, that's a lot where that comes into play. And also just my dad always encouraging me to speak up and get my point across in a way and not be afraid to lead in a boardroom setting. And I think that this discussion meet contest is really a big component of that.
You mentioned the background you have as far as that development of public speaking. You're also a VOAG teacher in Washington County. How does that help? How does what you do in real life prepare you for what you had to do here in San Antonio?
I think the key part in facilitating a conversation is being able to synthesize everybody's ideas and get everyone on the same page. And when I think about the 130 high school students that I am really blessed to have the opportunity to work with, it's about bringing their ideas together and helping them realize there are solutions, helping them realize the power of the agricultural industry. And I think that piece specifically helped me a lot in preparing for this contest.
Covered a bunch of topics and many of the things that Abby has dealt with in her own life, challenges with being a young farmer, challenges with, energy development across the state, a lot of the topics that were covered. As you look back on your 4 rounds of competition here, what is one thing, and you're not trying to solve all the world's problems during these competitions, but you obviously came to some general consensus with some of the topic matter. What sticks out to you the most as one of the best ways to resolve some of the challenges that we have in American agriculture?
I think my favorite topic from the 4 rounds was really focused on how do we diversify our farms, because that's something that I relate to personally. And I really loved the conversation that our group had about maybe we need to be creative when it comes to land use. Maybe we need to utilize our network, figure out ways that we can better connect Farm Bureau members to grant opportunities, to classes, and just be more aware of the support that Farm Bureau has for its members. Because just through this contest, I've learned a lot about things I didn't even know Farm Bureau could do for me. And so I'm looking forward to applying that on our own operation.
A lot of hard work, but the reward, I'll tell you, is really something. She and her husband Blake are going to be going to the Fusion Conference later on this year in Denver, Colorado, with the young farmers and ranchers here at American Farm Bureau. But she also got $35,000 towards a new Ford vehicle. And her husband Blake shed a tear when she won the award. It might have been because he's proud. It might have been because he was thinking about that new F-150 that was going to be in the driveway here in a couple of weeks. Either way, we are so proud of Abby Campbell from Washington County, the winner of the National American Farm Bureau Federation Discussion Meet Contest. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Find previous podcasts at ohiofarmbureau.org and search podcasts.